let's keep it going, fam, as we get ready to keep it shaking and baking. We move forward with our next one. And now let's talk about this. All right, now I played a video the other day about Dan Orlovsky, Dan Orlovsky. People was kind of clowning me how I pronounced the man's name. It's Orlovsky. Okay, Dan Orlovsky. All right, so Dan Orlovsky's been showing a lot of love to the Saints recently. It was supposed to be a segment in which the ESPN people was supposed to kiss the Jets' ass for the segment, and Orlovsky kind of threw a curveball in there, and he threw the Saints in there as a team that had the best offseason. And the reporter had to bring it back to the Jets because that's what they do. They're not a real sports organization. They are Disney. It's an entertainment business. That's why a lot of their stuff be falling through the floor. But anyway, Orlovsky talks about his NFC South QB rankings, which shouldn't be a big surprise because of the obvious fact that the inexperience of so many of these quarterbacks in the league. You got a 10-year veteran with all of the experience. So that got to count for something. And I keep saying that over and over again, that you have a guy that's 10 years in the NFL. All of his years have been a very decent years. He had several years when he was over 4,000 yards. He almost had a 5,000 yard season. I'm going to say this again. And even some of the other commentators or analysts said the same thing. He never, and I think James Jones, the wide receiver, he said this too, and I agree with him. He said the Raiders never had the type of weapons the Saints had. They never had, not saying not to disrespect what they have, but what he was saying was a full cupboard of the type of weapons, offensively speaking, that the Saints have given Derek Carr. You know, so it's like they're judging him based on what he had in with the Raiders, and that's ridiculous. You know, the Saints have top-notch players everywhere, and that will be a big-time blessing for Carr. But anyway, let's get into what Dan says about about what he believes in the NFC. Here we go.
Our quarterback, Dan Orlovsky, joining us. Let's take a look at the NFC South, all right, with the quarterbacks?
Sure.
All right. New guy.
Yep.
New guy.
Yep.
Rookie. Second-year guy with the experience. Where do you put Desmond Ridder when we rank these quarterbacks?
A lot of unknown for kind of all of them. I'm going to put Desmond Ridder at third in this division. The body of work last year wasn't big enough to really place him above that, the little timing play or the time on the field that he had. But I'm intrigued. I think athletically he'll be used a little bit like Philadelphia did with Jalen Hurts last year. He's got big guys on the perimeter, Kyle Pitts, Drake London. They drafted Bijan Robinson. This is going to be one of the, if not the most dynamic run games in the NFL. As long as he allows those big body playmakers on the outside to make plays and give them chances, I think he could be a very intriguing and surprise type of player for the Atlanta Falcons.
I'm intrigued now. Who's at 4 here when we talk about the newcomers?
Everyone knows I love the guy, but partly because Baker Mayfield's turnovers is why he's at number 4. I think we know what he is as a quarterback. He's had moments of good football, but the interceptions just have to go away from his game. Kev, he's not a high-level player or athlete enough to overcome the decision-making and the turnovers. And so until he becomes a little bit more consistent with that, I think that's going to hold his game back, and that's kind of been the story for the past couple of seasons for him. That's why I sit him at 4.
We'll see if the Bucs are in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes the way they look right now, roster-wise. Who's at number 2?
Yeah, I kind of went back and forth on this one. I want to be honest, because I have such high opinion on this guy, but I'm going to put Bryce Young at number 2. I think Bryce Young is going to be everything that he was advertised coming out of Alabama. That clip right there is going to be a big storyline. How he operates under center. Frank Reich and his offensive staff is going to put him in great situations. He's got good players around him, not great players, but enough. I think with the offensive line being way better than people expect it to be, they're going to be a dominant run game. Bryce is going to live in the RPO world, and his creativity is going to be a big part of their offense. I think he sits at number 2. And then a much better player than America kind of wants to accept, Derek Carr, rightfully so, sits at number 1. This is a very intriguing situation. This is still a good offensive line in New Orleans. If Michael Thomas is healthy, and then Chris Olave, you're talking about a dynamic and explosive and very good high-end duo when it comes to wide receivers. If Derek Carr goes there and plays the type of football that for the majority of his career he did with the Raiders, not only is he going to play really well, and this offense will be very good in New Orleans, but we're talking about a team that should be a playoff contender as long as that defense plays the way it did the last 8 weeks of the season last year. So I think that's why Derek Carr deserves to be number one.
And then one backstory. He's got a chip on his shoulder.
Totally.
You know, especially how it ended in
We
Vegas.
don't want you anymore.
Exactly. Couldn't finish out the way he wanted to on the field. Now he gets the chance to do it in New Orleans.
All right, there it is. And that's very interesting. And once again, he breaks down some stuff there. And as you can see the graphic on the screen as he finished with Carr in the NFC South rankings, putting Bryce Young at number 2 ahead of Desmond Ridder and Baker Mayfield. A lot of people don't believe in Baker Mayfield. A lot of people out of Tampa Bay believe Kyle Trask has an opportunity to really beat out Baker Mayfield, it just shows you how far he's fallen, in terms of being a quarterback. It's tough in the NFL, isn't it? But you're speaking about Derek Carr, and like Dan said, he spoke about the fact that the team, that a lot of people are not ready to give Carr his respect. And that's fine. That's fine, because people have to be able to witness and see Carr take it to the next level. That's really what it's about, right? He has to take it to the next level. Like I said, I make this comparison. I've been saying it because it's been hitting me. I watch film on guys like Matt Stafford when he was with Detroit. And then Stafford leaves Detroit, goes to the Rams, and then his game was already pretty sturdy and solid with the Rams. They just didn't have everything it took to go to the next level. When he went to the Rams, he was perfect for what they did. They had the offense in place, the weapons in place, the defense in place, and then it was just boom. It was just a match made in heaven. They were able to win a lot of games, even get a Super Bowl. Could we be having our Matthew Stafford moment with Derek Carr, where he moves from an incomplete or half a team the Raiders had with Carr for the last several years and moved to the Saints, where the Saints defense, or Orlovsky talks about the Saints defense, if they can stay in the top 15 rank. And I do think the Saints defense will, I don't know if they're top 5, I'm gonna be honest with you, because there's some questions that need to be answered. Like, I really think they'll improve stopping the run. There's issues in terms of who will be the opposite end versus Cam Jordan. There are several options there. The Saints have to solve that before week 1. And then, of course, there are depth concerns at the linebacker level and such like that. But outside of that, the Saints, from an offensive standpoint, are ready to take it to the next level. Now, can Carr be the guy? Could he take it to the next level with everything the Saints have gifted him? Only time will tell. But once again, Orlovsky's telling you, in the previous stream we did with him saying the Saints, they're the team there. A lot of people that say that's not much of a surprise, Q. I mean, a lot of these other teams are, Tampa Bay is a team that is in, kind of in somewhat of they are in rebuilding mode, right? They still have, some of the best and 2 of the top wide receivers in the NFL. They still have some really interesting, intriguing players on defense and offense. So they're, but they're weak at the top position of quarterback, which could infect them. That could infect or affect how they'll be able to win games this year. Having a guy, not having a sturdy option at top of the QB position, let me tell you something. After going through that last year, it is a very difficult thing to win in the NFL when you don't have that. Of course, he talked about Atlanta. I like Ridder. Ridder doesn't make many mistakes, but he's not going to wow you. So they're going to be a run. You're going to run the ball and play defense. I knew what Atlanta was doing. We know exactly, but it's not hard to tell. And Carolina is the very intriguing and interesting team. And I would look at them as a future team, like next year and beyond, them being a strong team in the NFC South and competing with the Saints. And eventually Atlanta it's going to be top. It's going to be those 3 teams competing until Tampa Bay gets their quarterback next year. But really and truly, if you look at it, 10-year quarterback got to count for something with all of the weapons the Saints have given Carr. The defense hasn't really fallen that far. Last year's guys like David Onyemata, Shai Tuttle, and Kent Street, those guys were awful. Saints got in, I ain't going to say better players, but there's some interesting players with Nate Saunders and Kalen Saunders and Nate Shepard, along with Brian Breesy. Add him to the fold there. So that's really intriguing. And of course, drafting Isaiah Foskey, Carl Granderson say, hey, I'm ready to take this job on to my own. I've been here for 5 years. It's my time. It's my time to shine. And of course, you got Peyton Turner, the first round draft pick, say, hey, man, I'm healthy. And first round draft picks are supposed to start. So we'll see who's right when week 1 hits, but we start real soon on getting to that. But anyway, once again, Dan Orlovsky gives the Saints credit. He talked about how they're the team in the NFC, and then he gives them the top quarterback. And of course, one plus one makes 2, right?